Welcome to the infamous edition of the Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation done through creative storytelling of history's most infamous people. Now, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the podcast. Let's start at the absolute beginning, where the public narrative hasn't yet distorted who you were. When and where were you born, and what was your given name?
I was born as William Kidd around 1654, right in the maritime town of Dundee, Scotland.
What was your hometown and home life like as a child?
Dundee was a bustling port, so the sea was in my blood from the start. My father, John Kidd, was a seaman himself. Sadly, he was lost at sea when I was just a boy, which left our family in a tight spot financially. A local society actually had to step in and support us, so things weren't easy growing up without him.
Was there a story behind your name or a nickname that stuck with you?
Most folks just knew me as Captain Kidd, but as my trials began and the history books started distorting my name, the English authorities and the media branded me an arch-pirate. That was the label that unfortunately stuck.
What were you like as a child, and how many years of schooling did you actually attend?
I was a determined lad, drawn to the docks and eager to follow in my father's footsteps. Formal schooling wasn't long for a boy in my position. As soon as I was old enough to be useful on a vessel, I went to work on the sea, learning trade, navigation, and gunnery through hard labor rather than books.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
It was accepting a special privateering commission in late 1695. I was already a respected, wealthy sea captain living a good life in New York with my wife, Sarah. But I agreed to captain a newly built warship called the Adventure Galley. My task was to hunt down French vessels and pirates in the Indian Ocean. It felt like a legitimate, honorable way to serve the crown and secure more wealth, but it set me on a direct path to the gallows.
Let's talk about your early run-ins with the law. Before the world knew your name for your most infamous actions, what was your very first arrest or interaction with law enforcement, and what were the consequences?
My first real interaction with law enforcement was when I was arrested in Boston in July 1699. I had sailed back to America, thinking I was a loyal privateer with proof of my legal captures. But instead, I was seized by the authorities, placed in heavy irons, and thrown into the grim stone prison.
At what moment did you realize your name would never be forgotten?
It was during my trial at the Old Bailey in London in May 1701. The courtroom was packed, and the proceedings were being printed and devoured by the public on both sides of the Atlantic. It was called the Trial of the Century, and seeing how the powerful politicians were using me as a scapegoat to protect their own reputations made me realize I was being turned into a legendary villain.
Did fame make you more dangerous, or did it simply expose who you already were?
The notoriety didn't make me dangerous. It just painted a target on my back. I always viewed myself as a lawful gentleman and a defender of the crown. But when you are labeled a pirate by the East India Company and the Royal Navy, every action you take is twisted to fit that narrative, no matter how much you try to follow the rules of your commission.
Who do you believe betrayed you first? A person, society, or your own instincts?
I was betrayed by the very Whig lords and powerful businessmen who financed my expedition, and by my old acquaintance, Massachusetts Governor Bellamont. I surrendered to Bellamont in Boston because I trusted him and expected a pardon. Instead, he had me arrested to clear his own name and protect his political allies from being linked to a suspected pirate.
What was your most unique habit or a random fact about you that would surprise people?
People might be surprised to know that I am the only pirate in history who actually buried treasure. Before I was locked away, I buried a stash of gold, gems, and silver on Gardiner's Island off the coast of New York as an insurance policy, hoping to use it as a bargaining chip for my freedom.
What did the public never understand about the pressure you were under at the time?
The public didn't understand that I was dealing with a mutinous, desperate crew on a failing ship. The Adventure Galley leaked like a sieve and was rotting from shipworms. We had gone months without taking a single prize, and my men were starving and furious because I refused to let them plunder friendly ships. I was trapped between keeping the law and surviving a mutiny.
Did you have any known rivalries that defined your career?
My biggest adversaries weren't other captains, but the English East India Company. They held a powerful monopoly on trade in the eastern seas and viewed me as a poaching interloper. They used their immense political muscle to slander me and ensure I was hunted down.
What personal battles were you fighting privately while the world was watching?
Privately, I was fighting to keep my sanity while enduring nearly 2 years of brutal solitary confinement. I was locked in the stone prison, then kept in a windowless cabin on a ship crossing the Atlantic, and finally thrown into the horrific conditions of Newgate Prison without proper legal counsel or access to my personal papers to prepare a defense.
What was your darkest moment? And was there ever a time you wanted to walk away from it all?
My darkest moment on the waves happened in October 1697. My gunner, William Moore, was actively trying to stir up a mutiny to attack a Dutch ship, which would have violated my legal commission. We got into a heated argument, and in a fit of absolute rage and frustration, I struck him with an iron-bound wooden bucket. He died the next day, and that single blow sealed my fate as a murderer in the eyes of the law.
What truth was hardest to escape when you were alone at night?
The hardest truth was knowing that I held the ultimate proof of my innocence, yet I couldn't use it. The two main ships I captured, including the massive Quetta Merchant, were carrying authentic French passes, making them legal targets under my privateering commission. But the prosecution suppressed those documents during my trial, leaving me completely defenseless.
When the law finally closed in, how exactly were you brought to justice? Walk me through the final arrest, the charges that ultimately stuck, and the legal outcome of your trials.
After my arrest in Boston, I was sent to London to face the Old Bailey. I was charged with the murder of my gunner, William Moore, and with 5 counts of piracy. The court refused to view Moore's death as the subduing of a mutiny and found me guilty of intentional murder. They also convicted me of piracy. On May 23, 1701, I was taken to execution dock in Wapping and hanged.
What's the craziest rumour ever told about you? And what part of your story has been exaggerated the most?
The wildest rumor is that I buried billions in hidden treasure all up and down the Atlantic coast, from Canada to the Caribbean. People have been digging up beaches and islands for centuries based on those myths. In reality, the treasure I hid on Gardiner's Island was quickly located and dug up by the authorities to be used as evidence against me.
What is the biggest misconception people have about your life?
The biggest misconception is that I was a bloodthirsty, lawless pirate captain flying a black flag. I started out as a legitimate, law-abiding privateer and a model citizen. I tried to do the right thing under impossible circumstances, but I got caught in a shifting political system where the rules changed mid-voyage.
What would surprise people most about your ordinary human side?
People would be surprised by how domestic my life actually was before that final voyage. I was a family man. I lived in a fine home on Wall Street in New York City, cared deeply for my wife Sarah and our children, and was a respected member of the local community who even contributed to the building of Trinity Church.
When, where, and how did you pass away?
I passed away on May 23, 1701, at Execution Dock in Wapping, London. My cause of death was execution by hanging. In fact, the rope broke on the first attempt, so they had to string me up a second time.
Was your downfall caused more by your own flaws or by the world changing around you?
It was a mix of both, but mostly the world changing around me. I certainly had a temper, which led to the fatal blow against William Moore. But my downfall was guaranteed because England and France were suddenly moving toward peace, and the authorities needed to crack down on piracy to appease foreign trade partners. I became the perfect political sacrifice.
What past regrets did you carry with you to the end? If you could erase one decision from your life, would you? Or was it necessary to become who you were?
If I could erase one decision, I would never have picked up that iron-bound bucket to strike William Moore, and I would never have trusted the politicians who backed my voyage. I went to the gallows carrying the heavy regret of trusting the wrong men.
Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before signing off?
I would just ask that history judges me by the facts, not the campfire legends. I was sworn against by perjured and wicked people who saved their own skins by destroying mine. I was a sailor who tried to navigate a corrupt political storm, and I paid the ultimate price for it.
And that wraps up another conversation from beyond the grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, choose to do good in this life. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.